In the silence, Keith tossed in his sleep and mumbled something that sounded like motorcycle. In a moment, his mother slipped through the doorway, pulling her robe on over her nightgown. Ralph hid behind the curtain, peeping out just enough to see what was going to happen. She laid her hand on her son's forehead and murmured, "Oh, dear." Almost at once she was joined by Keith's father, who was tying the belt to his bathrobe. "What's the trouble?" he asked. "Keith has a fever," answered his mother. "He's burning up." Ralph was shocked. The boy really was sick. It was not too many peanuts or too much hiking. The boy was really and truly sick. The father turned on the lamp on the bedside table, and he too laid his hand on the boy's forehead. Keith opened his eyes. "I am so hot," he mumbled. "I want a drink." His mother pulled back the blanket while his father brought a glass of water and held up his son's head so he could drink part of it. Ralph watched anxiously, but this time he was not selfishly concerned about room service. He was concerned about Keith, the boy who had saved him from a terrible fate in the wastebasket and who had trusted him with his motorcycle. The boy who had forgiven him when he had lost the motorcycle, and who had brought food not only for Ralph, but for his whole family. "We had better give him an aspirin to bring down his temperature," said Mrs. Gridley. Mr. Gridley started toward room 216, stopped and snapped his fingers as if he had just remembered something. "I took the last one back in Rock Springs, Wyoming," he said. "I had a headache from driving towards the sun all afternoon. I meant to buy some more when we stopped, but I didn't think of it again until now." "I should have thought of it myself," said Mrs. Gridley. "I knew we were almost out." "Never mind, I'll get some." Mr. Gridley picked up the telephone, listened, shook it, listened again, and said, "That's peculiar. The line seems to be dead. They must disconnect the switchboard at night," said Mother. "But surely there is someone on duty at the desk downstairs. Every hotel has a night clerk." "I'll go find out," said the father, and slipped through the door into the hallway. "I am so hot," mumbled Keith. "I'm so hot." His mother wrung out a washcloth in the cold water and laid it on her son's forehead. You'll feel better as soon as we can get you an aspirin," she said. The minutes dragged by. What was keeping him, thought Ralph. Why doesn't he hurry? The old hotel snapped and creaked. Keith rolled and tossed, trying to find a cool spot on the pillow, and his mother wrung out the washcloth in more cold water. "When's Dad coming?" Keith asked, his eyes bright and his cheeks flushed. "In a minute," soothed his mother. "He'll be here in a minute." "I wish he would hurry," thought Ralph. Still the minutes dragged. Finally footsteps were heard in the hallway, and Mr. Gridley returned to room 215. "He's here with the aspirin," whispered Mrs. Gridley to Keith. "At last," thought Ralph. "I thought he would never come." Mr. Gridley shook his head. "There isn't an aspirin to be found any place." He sounded thoroughly exasperated. "First of all, the night clerk was sound asleep on the couch in the lobby. I had a dickens of a time waking him up, and when I finally did manage to, he couldn't find any aspirin anywhere." "Oh, no," exclaimed the mother. "Oh, no," echoed Ralph's thoughts. "What about the little gift shop off the lobby?" asked Mrs. Gridley. "It must sell aspirin." "Locked up tight, and the clerk went home with the key," answered Mr. Gridley. "Oh, dear. The night clerk was really very nice about it," said the father. "He even came up and looked in the housekeeper's office." "How far to the nearest drugstore?" 25 miles back on the main highway," answered the father. "And it closed at 10 o'clock, and it doesn't open again until 9 in the morning." The mother held her watch under the lamp, and it was almost 1 o'clock. It was hours until morning. She crossed the room to wring out the washcloth again. "What will we do?" "What can we do?" asked the father, helplessly. "I even telephoned the doctor, but there has been a bad accident on the highway, and he can't come. The night clerk said he would telephone the milkman before he starts his route at 6 and ask him if he could bring some aspirin, but he won't get here until 7 or later. All we can do is wait." Keith tossed under the cold washcloth. "Mom, I think I'd like to go to sleep now," he muttered thickly. "I guess that is all you can do," said his mother, and bent over to kiss his hot forehead before she turned out the lights. Ralph did not even wait for the boy's parents to leave the room. As soon as the light was out, he leapt silently to the carpet, and by the time they had gone through the doorway to room 216, he had hidden his little crash helmet behind the curtain, and was halfway through the knothole. Somewhere, someplace in that hotel, there must be an aspirin tablet, and Ralph was going to find it. He only wished he had the motorcycle so he could travel faster.